Is it that easy for you to just hop into Goofy?
Gosh, it sure is now.
Don't tell me you don't remember Hi Dad Soup.
It was supposed to be a Goof Troop movie, which is the first series that I did.
Hiya, Petey. Where did these cars come from? Well, that one was parked in front of City Hall.
And I, of course, barked for Pluto for the last 38 years as well.
Can we hear that?
Whoa! Yeah, there's Pluto. I can do that in all languages, too. You know, for example, French, whoa! You know, German, whoa! You know, English, whoa! Foghorn Leghorn's a big old chicken. That boy's about as sharp as a bowling ball. He's kind of a West Texas kind of thing, and he's a great character, because I got to come up with that voice myself.
38 years of being Goofy.
Yes, yeah, 38 years so far.
So far. How do you breathe dimension and life and depth into a character with just your voice?
I think due to the fact that I took classes when I first came out to California back in 1986 from a guy named Dawes Butler, who is a great voiceover actor. Yeah, Huckleberry Hound, Yogi Bear, Captain Crunch, about 40-some, Snagglepuss, all these other characters. And a friend said, oh, you want to get into voiceover, you need to take classes from Dawes Butler. And I called him up, and his regular voice was almost like Captain Crunch. He said, oh, come on over, Bill, and we have classes on Wednesday. And I went over to his house in Beverly Hills, and he was the one that really said, no, it's not voice acting, it's voice acting. It's the acting is what is really the important thing. And I just come off of doing about 5 years of stand-up, and I think that performing in front of a live crowd was the best training that I ever had, because you get response. They either laugh or they don't. And if they don't laugh, you got to figure out why. So I'd tape my shows and listen back. And, well, that joke didn't work. Let me see if I can rewrite it. And over time, you kind of get the hang of it and how to tell a joke and stuff, which comes in really handy in the booth. And you learn how to get it off the page and make it real.
Do you have to find a little bit of yourself in Goofy to really get his tones?
Oh, yeah, especially with a Goofy movie, because that was different than stuff we'd done before. Before, it was more Saturday morning, kind of just slapstick comedy before. But there we had to kind of give him real emotions for his son. And my son was about 5 at the time. So I just kind of, in my mind, my son Austin in place of Max, and it's easier to relate, you know, when they just give you a piece of paper and you got to bring it to life and real and give him emotions. But the hard part was trying to find, well, I didn't lose Goofy, but I was able to give him more human-like emotions. That was the trick.
What kind of prep was there with creating the character for that movie?
It was in the studio, really. It was, Kevin Lima was the director, and he had a certain vision for that, and they wanted it to be more real than the slapstick kind of Goofy. And so we just kind of did lines over and over until that's what we're looking for. And then okay, that's what they want. So now I'll do that on this next line.
Was there a big time crunch with it? Because you weren't recording digitally. So was there, this is the budget, we have to stick to it, we have to get it this week?
No, as a matter of fact, that took longer to record a Goofy movie than any movie that I've ever been involved with.
Oh, wow.
Because they rewrote scenes, and it was a long process. It was like they were discovering how to do this movie on a cheaper budget than some of the big tentpole things where they could just throw money at it. So I had probably 40-some different days of recording on that movie over about a 2-year period.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah, the sequel, an extremely Goofy movie, we recorded in like 3 days.
Wow.
So it's a big difference.
Was Disney very protective over Goofy? Because he's Goofy. This is like his big moment. Was there something like, we can't have this movie flop, we need to make sure that everything is meticulously done correctly?
Behind the scenes, I'm not sure, because we tried a lot of things that didn't, and in a documentary that just came out on Disney Plus, they go into this. It's called Not Just A Goof, and they recount the story where Jeffrey Katzenberg, the kind of overseeing our movie, said, Goofy sounds to me too cartoony. What if we use like a celebrity to be Goofy? And he used the thing, Steve Martin, I don't think they ever talked to Steve Martin about it, but, and they said, you mean Steve Martin would do the Goofy voice? No, it would be Steve Martin as Goofy. And that was just an idea that was kind of thrown out, and then they figured, nah, that wouldn't work.
Were you aware of that?
I was not at the time. No, not until this documentary came out. There's so much behind-the-scenes stuff that I didn't know about. Yeah, during the writing and all of that kind of stuff, no, I had no input. It was supposed to be a Goof Troop movie, which is the first series that I did. And so I was thinking, okay, that's that style of acting. But no, they took it into a road trip picture, and it's much more real and a little deeper than the earlier stuff was.
Did you go see it in theaters?
Oh, yeah.
What was that like?
That was incredible because we'd had one other featurette, I guess it would be called, that was in theaters. So I saw my characters on screen with a live audience for the first time. And that was Prince and the Pauper. It was a short that was in front of, I think, The Rescuers Down Under. And so that's the first animated thing that I saw my characters on a big screen and heard the audience reaction and everything. Goofy Movie was second.
Wow. What was the response when Goofy Movie first came out? What were you hearing?
From the audience or in the theater?
In the theater.
Oh, in the theater, it went gangbusters. I was so happy, and I was so proud of being a part of this thing, because that's the first movie that any of the, what we called the Fab Five, Mickey, Minnie, Donald, Goofy, Pluto, were the Fab Five, and none of them had had a full-length feature film before. Mickey's been in movies and everything, but not the whole movie.
The character being the star.
Being the star of the whole movie. So it was kind of a heavy thing for me to kind of think, oh, gosh, they're giving Goofy this chance. I don't want it to fail. And so I did my best on it, and it didn't come out to great acclaim because it's kind of a secondary movie. It wasn't, pushed as hard as some of the big ones. And so it did fine. It made a lot more than it was the cost to make. And so it did fine, but it wasn't a big success. They thought it was going to come and go, and that would be it. But no, over the last 30 years, it has gained in popularity due to just people discovering this thing. And right now, it's the most popular thing that I've ever done in my life. And still, all the Comic-Cons, it's the first thing that everyone talks about. It's a Goofy Movie.
Wow. Is it that easy for you to just hop into Goofy?
Gosh, it sure is now.
Were you doing group recordings for that movie?
A little bit with Jason Marsden. In the beginning, we would do dialogues back and forth, but most of the time it's solo.
What about you as a voice actor? What do you prefer? Do you prefer being in the booth solo?
Oh, it's much more fun to have others around you that you can react to, rather than just react to a written thing. If Mickey says, gosh, Goofy, let's go outside, and I go, all right, Mick, let's go. You can respond to that if he's there. But if it's just a line of dialogue, you have to imagine how it's said and respond in kind. So I'll usually give 2 or 3 responses, kind of figuring what I feel, and then the director said, no, Mickey's 50 feet away. So then you go, all right, Mick, let's go. Then you adjust the acting that way.
Right. Can we go back to the beginning?
Yeah.
Back when you first auditioned for Goofy, you were up against 1,000 other people. What did you think the chances was of you becoming this character?
I think ignorance was bliss with me. It was one of the first auditions I did after moving to California from Texas. And, I didn't know. They just said, do you do any of the Disney characters? At the time, there were 2 or 3 Goofies, Mickeys, Donalds, stuff like that, but they wanted one voice for each of the main characters.
What was that thought process? Why'd they want that?
I never knew at the time. I only found out much later, but it was because of the advent of the Disney Channel and cable television, where you could see an old Goofy cartoon, something new, something from the parks, something from a record album or whatever, and they were all slightly different. If it was different people, like a guy in Florida doing it for down there at Disneyland might be a different person. They sounded somewhat different. They wanted one voice one personality for each of these main characters.
So when Disney Channel came about, were you getting jobs left and right?
No. The first few years, it was maybe once every 2 or 3 months. Yeah, one job. They didn't have a presence on television until kind of the Disney afternoon came along with Goof Troop and DuckTales and other TV shows. That's when it started kind of building, and the whole Disney empire really kind of started taking off about that time.
What was the busiest time frame of you voicing Goofy?
Gosh, it's almost like now.
Really?
I can't believe it, because we have a couple of series that we're in the process of doing right now that I don't know if they've even been announced yet. Some Christmas stuff, Halloween stuff. We're constantly doing stuff. I think maybe I've got a job, not tomorrow, but next week I do. And so, yeah, and with the 30th anniversary of a Goofy movie, I've been very busy with a lot of personal appearances and things like that. So, yeah, it's nuts. This summer is nuts.
What do you, as the voice of Goofy, prefer to do the most? Is it TV shows, the movie, video games, Disney parks?
Gosh, probably like doing the movies. Movies, yeah. Well, I mean, that's what you think of Hollywood. When I grew up in Kansas, and, I was always enamored with movies, and that was Hollywood,
Right.
So movies was kind of always the big thing, more so than TV. But TV has been by far the most common thing that I do, series work. And I've done maybe 3,000 to 4,000 performances as Goofy in the last 38 years. And so that's live, that's records, that's toys, that's, things for the parks around the world as well as here. And a lot of TV stuff. Since 2006, especially, when Mickey Mouse Clubhouse started, it's been nonstop.
Wow. So when you get hired to do the voice for stuffed animal where you pull the string.
Yeah.
Is that a full day of voice acting for you?
Probably an hour and a half. They have it laid out, and I do it now since COVID at my home studio. Oh, wow. And my son's an audio engineer, so I hire him to just run the session and record it, and it's not like, any different than going into a studio now.
Really?
And so the director's on a Zoom call with me, and he gives me any notes that he has. We do it. We send him the WAV files, and boom, there it goes.
At this point in your career, do you even have a vocal director in the booth with you?
Not in the booth. No, it's on a Zoom,
Oh, wow.
And one of the main directors that we have on the series work is Kelly Ward. If you remember, he played, I think it was Putsy in Grease. He was with John Travolta's group singing and all of that stuff. A fantastic director and a good friend. And I know him so well, I know what he's going to want, and so I kind of, okay, I'll bet he's going to take 3. And then, well, let's take 3. Yeah, I got it. It's like a game.
So you watched back the new Goofy documentary.
Yes.
What was the most shocking thing in there that you didn't know about?
Oh, gosh. Just the some of the stuff that went on behind the scenes when they were producing it. Like, they got the entire movie done, except there was like one pixel that was like burnt out on the film, the entire film. And they're like, oh, we never noticed that before. That's going to ruin the picture. So they had to go back and fix everything. I don't know how they did that, but that blew me away. The fact that just what goes into a movie is something that I didn't have to ever really worry about. I came in, they gave me my lines, I recorded them, I kind of went home. Later on, and a few years ago, I got to produce the first TV show for Disney that I actually helped sell it, called It's a Dog's Life with Bill Farmer. And it was on Disney Plus for about 3.5 years. And then when they bought Hulu, it kind of went in the storage for a while. So hopefully it'll come back. But that was producing something for Disney, and that's a whole different ball game.
Did you like doing that?
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. You kind of have a lot more control, but for dogs, and it's about live action dogs. It's a live action, not animated. But it's like the punchline was, okay, I've been doing animated dogs for 38 years. Now I'm learning to find out about real working dogs. So we went around the country and we recorded different dogs that have amazing jobs that you'd never know about, like a dog that finds whale poop. You wouldn't think that that's a thing. The mayor of Rabbit Hash, Kentucky is a dog. These funny little stories about real life dogs, and I love dogs anyway. So
how do they find whale poop? Isn't that in the water?
It is in the water.
And
we went out on a boat, and that was off of Vancouver, the killer whales. They were losing population there, and they wanted to find out why, and they don't give blood samples to check their health and everything very easily. So, but one thing you can do is find whale poop and test it to see if they're eating right. Do they have enough to eat? What's the deal? Are they reproducing? All this stuff you can find out by studying whale poop.
Does it float up to the surface?
It does for about 10 minutes, they say. And you have to follow them in a boat and look for it. But now they got a little dog named Eba, and Eba is a Jack Russell pit bull, and she has been taught to go nuts when she smells the whale poop, which you can't really smell it when you're out in the boat. It's too faint, but dogs can smell it with their amazing nose. And they went from like 3 samples in some amount of time to about over 100 samples.
Wow.
And yeah, now it's helping the whale population and stuff.
So being the master of Goofy, is Goofy a canine or a dog or a wolf?
The best that I've ever, his original name was a Dippy Dog, but it was D-A-W-G, so it wasn't like D-O-G.
Were they trying to be cool?
I don't know what they were. He was just a character. In the old thing, it was Mickey Mouse. Pete is actually a cat. It's dogs and cats and, things like that. So they didn't really. Pluto's a dog. And I, of course, barked for Pluto for the last 38 years as well. And
can we hear that?
Huh?
Can we hear that?
Yeah, there's Pluto. I can do that in all languages, too. For example, French, row, German, row, English, row. It's easy. I can use that around the world. Okay. So Goofy is a canine, from what I understand, or why I call him Canis Goofus. He's not a dog, but like a wolf is not a dog, but it's a canine. So I think Goofy is a canine, but he's just higher on the evolutionary ladder than Pluto is.
Did you audition for Pluto at the same time you auditioned for Goofy?
No, I picked that up actually in either the first or the second job I ever did. It was I did a thing called Disney's Doggone Valentine, and it was a takeoff on the old MTV mashups of hits, and they had that with animated cartoons, old cartoons, and they wanted a new line from Goofy, and that's what I won in the first audition. And I went in, and they had a thing where Pluto's supposed to be barking, and they said, "Oh, we need a bark. Can you bark?" And I just, yeah, I can bark, and I did that right there, and that's good.
Were you trying to replicate the original Pluto?
As much as I could, yeah. Yeah. Who was Pinto Colvig on several people did Pluto, but Pinto Colvig, who originated the voice of Goofy, also did it. So I think they thought, well, he's the same. He does Goofy, he can do Pluto. And it's probably cheaper anyway to do that with me already there.
Are you recording Pluto's voices often still?
Oh, yes, all the time.
They don't just use the same bark?
No, they don't library that stuff. I don't know why, but no, it's just to give it whatever, an inquisitive bark, a scared bark, a friendly bark, a hi, how are you kind of bark. They'll give me different ideas, and I try and come up with different barks that sound a little bit like that.
What does a scared Pluto bark sound like?
Oh!
I get it. When you first got Goof Troop,
yeah,
what was your initial reaction to a series being made?
Oh, I knew that would help the money situation because, like back then, you couldn't make a living on this thing. I still did stand up to pay the bills, and I was doing maybe a thing every month or two, and it wasn't enough to really maintain. Here was steady work. a whole series, and we did like 86 episodes of it over the last 3 years. And obviously then I could see myself on TV like, all the time, and I felt like I'd kind of made it when I got a series.
Right. Were you recording in the booth with Jim Cummings and Rob Paulson?
Oh, yes. Yeah. And that was an amazing cast because there was Frank Welker and Dana Hill and, and of course Rob and Jim, were legends even when I started and well-known voice actors. And to get to sit next to them, and especially Frank Welker, who was doing sound effects all the time. I mean, these guys are good. And it was a little intimidating. So doing that was a great cast and a great experience. I mean, you had to hit the floor running.
Was it like a team of like superheroes coming together? Because I just picture you guys all sharing each other's methods to make this thing as big as possible.
Yeah, you'd learn the techniques of acting by listening to how big does someone make it. It's kind of interesting, voice acting, the way I describe it to students and stuff, is that they say a camera adds 10 pounds, but a microphone takes off about 10% of your energy.
Oh.
If you don't see someone also, because you get that input of their actions and stuff, that adds a little bit. But when there's just the voice, you have to make up for the lack of visual by the acting. And so you kind of bump the acting a little bit bigger generally in animation. Different styles of animation are a little bit different. They have to be like, like movie acting is a little bit more, your picture's big on the screen, and so you see little eye movements, and you don't have to be as big as you have to do when you're on stage. Stage acting is very much like voice acting because you got to get to the guy in the back seat, bigger, grander gestures, and the voice, what? A little bit bigger kind of things.
What did Goof Troop do to your status as a voice actor?
It gives you, credibility. Oh, he's working with Jim Cummings. He's working with Rob Paulson and all these people. And from my agent standpoint, that was nice. That kind of bumped me up a little bit on the ladder, I think.
So are they pitching you to more shows? Do you get more jobs coming in now because of this?
Not necessarily because of that. I still audition all the time. I think it helped me when a Goofy movie came out because about 2 years after that I did Space Jam, which I did Sylvester, Yosemite Sam, Foghorn Leghorn. I've done Bugs and Daffy and Robot Chicken, a lot of other things. But I think that gave me more of a credibility. He's got an iconic character under his belt.
What was that like for you taking over roles from Mel Blanc?
I got to meet Mel Blanc when I did the movie Roger Rabbit, which is, I think, the first movie that I did anything to do with moving to Hollywood, and I didn't even do Goofy in that. Tony Pope, my predecessor, was doing that because he started it even before I moved out to California, and he was probably mad at me because I beat him out in the audition. But that's showbiz, as they say. And so I just did some background voices, but that kind of got me going. And that I met Mel Blanc, who, as I remember, during that time, he was a heavy smoker. And I think he had an oxygen tank, and he was smoking.
Still doing the voices.
Yeah, and he did that. He could still do, oh, brother, ain't I a stinker?
That's crazy. Is there a big difference between doing Looney Tunes voiceovers versus a Disney voiceover?
Just the personality of the character. I mean...
same process.
Yeah, it's really the same process. Space Jam was unique because Ivan Reitman, the producer of the movie, wanted to do the animation directing. So we were actually, as I remember, we were all in the same studio at the same time, and, we got to try new things and stuff like it. May have been a little bit looser than a typical Disney session, and the fact that by that time I was doing stuff mostly solo and then doing it ensemble was kind of neat, and we had a little more experimental, I guess it was.
Right. Did you see the movie in theaters?
Oh, yeah.
What was that like?
That was, again, great. And Mel Blanc was kind of like my idol when I was a kid because he was the only one who could ever figure the name out because you couldn't stop motion, and pause that so I can see the names of the credits. No, they came by so fast I could never figure who was doing what. But Mel Blanc had his name up there, right? Voice characterizations, Mel Blanc. So I know that name. And so, yeah, meeting him was just meeting your idol is like, oh my gosh,
Are there any other characters from other worlds that you would want to voice?
Oh, all of them. It's just fun. It's a lot of fun. You get to become a kid again, and at my age, it's like, gosh, I get to delve into that stuff that most people have to give up a long time ago. You get to be a kid.
Can you do Foghorn again?
Foghorn Leghorn's a big old chicken. That boy's about as sharp as a bowling ball.
Are you in Six Flags at all?
I have done Six Flags work, but Warner Brothers was a little different than Disney, as they would use a lot of different people, whereas Disney stuck with me, and I'm the only one that's done Goofy for 38 years.
Oh, wow. So every time we're in Disney.
Yeah. In all facets of record albums, park appearances, toys, everything. That's me. That might be a record. I don't know.
So have you been sick to where you had to just push dates back? And
in 38 years, I've missed maybe 4 or 5 days to push. I've been very fortunate. That voice isn't like now Mickey. If you get a cold, that affects that voice. Goofy's that more guttural.
It kind of helps it.
It's in the back. And it doesn't seem to be, I can do Goofy when I can't do myself, know.
Wow. Do you have a favorite line that you've done at the Disney parks?
Oh, at the parks? Oh, we did a long time ago. I don't remember how it goes, but we did the closing, a little song like "Good night," it's time for us to close and stuff like that. I don't remember how the song goes, but that was really nice. And doing some of the records, we did some Christmas albums early on where we did it ensemble, and we used to go to Disney World, and we'd do radio interviews as the characters, but we do, so it's real time. It's just ad lib. It's like really fun, and I would usually do it with Donald, Mickey, and Minnie would be a team, and they'd go to different stations, and sometimes as many as 200 or 300 radio stations in a week.
Wow!
And it's like boom, boom, boom. That was challenging, but so much fun because we got to hang around together at night and go to dinner, and it was just like a paid vacation. It was a lot of fun.
So the Fab Five hung out together in real life.
Yes, we did. Yeah.
What is some of the favorite jobs that you've done for Goofy? Would it be toys, the albums?
Yeah. An early Christmas album. We did 12 Days of Christmas, which was a lot of fun because I got to work with Alan Young, who was, Mr. Ed fame. And he was Scrooge McDuck, and he sang, and we did all of those songs live, kind of like in the studio together, ensemble. It wasn't I do my part and then they come in and do someone else's part. I did that album. I've done probably about 20 albums over the last 30-some years.
Do you have gold plaques from those?
I do have a gold record for a Christmas album we did. Yes.
How cool. Wow. So you're a platinum selling artist.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, this last week, I'm so proud. My son is also a drummer before he was an engineer, actually. And he does a lot of gigs, and he did one with a group called Star Kids. And this last week, he came to me and said, Dad, we're on iTunes. Their selling list, a Goofy movie, the soundtrack, was number 5, and an album he did with Star Kids, Cinderella's Castle, I think was the name of it, was number 6. So we were in the top 10, my son and I, and I'm not a singer, really, and you don't expect Goofy to be a great singer, so that's kind of a saving grace for me. But we did have to do a song last summer on the Hollywood Bowl stage, which is probably the biggest event I think I've ever had, and it happened last summer.
Do you get jitters performing in front of a crowd like that?
That crowd, yeah, because like right outside my dressing room was a picture of the Beatles on stage, and you see that and you go, what am I doing here? And you go out there and there's 17,500 people, and we sold out for 2 nights, and it was a Disney music of the 80s and 90s. So
is that the thing with Corbin Bleu?
Huh? Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. So I got to sing with Corbin Bleu as Max, the open road from a Goofy movie. And yeah, it's like there's no take twos. There's not like in the studio, I got a script, I got a microphone, I'm just doing this. But here, it's live, and it's nuts. You go out and you just sense the crowd. You can't really see them because it's black. The lights are on you. You can see back maybe eight rows or something like that. But it goes up the hill, and you get this sense of this massive thing. And we got a standing ovation when we did our bit. And, oh, my God, it was just unreal. It was like nothing I've ever done in my life. Much better than the stand-up things where you're on a Friday night in some town in Texas and, make me laugh, jerk,
Are you still doing stand-up now?
Not really stand-up. I'll do speeches from time to time, and I'll put comedy in them, but not the comedy club kind of stuff.
Right, not at the Comedy Store.
Yeah, I've done those Comedy Store, but not in a long time. No, that's scary.
Was singing part of the original audition for Goofy?
It was a little bit. They had a little part of a song because they've always had these characters sing some. So I guess I had to sing.
Right.
And, actually Goofy's one of the harder ones from what I understand because his voice is a kind of a cadence character. It's like if you're doing Donald and you can do that, which is all I can say in that voice. But if you can do that with your cheek, it's going to sound like Donald, but Goofy, you lose it if you don't get his cadence, his ups and downs. If you just do it like this, it's kind of an accent, but it's not really Goofy. And sometimes a melody can fight that. So it's harder to sing as Goofy than it is in my own voice.
Oh, wow. So do you think that you have Goofy singing down pat now? Sometimes I do. It's still my son, who's the drummer. He helps direct me sometimes. I coming in and sometimes it's 1, 2, 3, 4, boom, and he'll do that because he's got great timing as a drummer, and so he helps me out a little bit with that. I need a director. I need a conductor. You've done some crazy other movies, too. Beauty and the Beast, Toy Story, Bug's Life, Cars, Casper, Monsters University, Shrek 2, Robot Chicken, Phineas and Ferb.
Oh, yeah.
Do you audition for all these other characters?
I did not. I was with a loop group, and that's the group of actors that goes in and adds incidental characters to the movies. For example, Beauty and the Beast. We all went on stage B on the Disney lot, and there were about 10, 12 of us. And they say, okay, that guy, this is a crowd scene. We're attacking the castle, so we need guys, kill the beast, go get him, stuff like that. And so we'd get up there in little groups, and then they would stack it to however big a crowd you need. And I always tell the story that that's probably the Beauty and the Beast. I had the most obscure voice I've ever done. In the scene where Gaston is singing about decorating with antlers and stuff, he throws 3 eggs up in the air and goes, and that's me. I'm eggs.
And then in Toy Story, you're the announcer?
I am on the Pizza Planet, T-minus 29, 28, getting ready for launch. Just little incidental things throughout the movie. And we've done it on all the other ones, Toy Story and Bug's Life and stuff like that.
Do you audition to be in that group, or did they pull
you in? I
did
in the beginning. They tried me, and then they liked what I did, and so then I started doing that. I don't do that too much anymore because my schedule has gotten so wacky lately. I just don't do that. But I do a lot more Comic-Cons now, and which I'm doing. I'm leaving tomorrow on another one in Maine and stuff. So that's kind of a fun thing that I get to do because I get to talk with the fans and I get to hear stories from them.
Just real quick to go back to that loop group. Do you have an idea of what the character is going to be so that at home you can kind of prepare it?
No. It's like, boom, that guy in the background, he's looked like he's talking to someone and you have to just come up with something.
On the spot right there?
Just on the spot. It can be like, let's go get lunch, whatever.
So, do you like doing the cons?
Yeah, I do like doing cons. They're a lot of fun. Like I say, the people come up, and over the last few years, number one thing that they do talk about is a Goofy movie, how it changed their life, or they thank you for my childhood, and all these great stories that you don't really get a sense when you're in the studio of how this stuff affects people. and you get to hear this, and it's great fun, and you get to travel, and that's the one time I do get to see a lot of my voiceover friends is at cons. We'll be at a table next to Mickey and stuff, and or Jim, or and so you get to see them in those venues more than you do in the studio.
So they position you near all those people that you've done work with before?
Usually, like if I do something on a Goofy movie, Jason Marsden, who played Max, will be there, and we'll be at a table next to each other, and I get to hang out with him for the weekend and go to dinner and that kind of stuff. So it's a lot of fun.
Goofy's such a generational character because you're talking.
He is. It's so weird. I mean, I've been doing this so long that people come up, like in a Goofy movie. Oh, when I was a kid, I sided with Max's point of view. Now I got kids, and I see what Goofy's talking about. So it's kind of a circle of life kind of thing.
Did you think you'd ever be voicing Goofy this long?
No, you can't plan for this. My degree was in broadcast journalism. And I went to the University of Kansas, so I stuck around in radio for a number of years. And when I was doing that, then they were little podunk stations in Kansas and Oklahoma and Texas, and they didn't really care what you did as long as you played the records and did the commercials. And so I would develop characters and bring on that I would do impressions and stuff. I'd do Wolfman Jack. Hey, Bill, it's great seeing you. I didn't know there was probably copyright laws I was breaking or something like that. And so I'd just bring these characters on, and now we're going to go out there and we're going to go to the sale barn and we're going to sell some cows or whatever we did. And so I'd just come up with these little characters to keep myself occupied and to have fun. And people say, oh, it's a pretty good thing you did there on the radio. I like that character, and it was just fun.
So was that a sign that maybe you had a talent for this?
I guess it was. It wasn't until I started stand-up comedy back in 1982 in Dallas. And the host of the comedy club, it was a place called the Comedy Corner in Dallas, Texas.
Is
and
it
the
still
host,
here today?
I don't think it is there anymore. No, but the host went on to great fame. Bill Engvall, who was with like Jeff Foxworthy and Larry the Cable Guy on the Southern Comedy Tour and all that. He was the host, and he went on to do great things. And he was the first one that said, you ought to try this more. You ought to. I think you got something there. And so I started going back and just trying out on Tuesday nights. It was kind of a free do 5 minutes of comedy thing. And before too long, I kind of started doing clubs around Texas, and then I'd worked my way up to headline status when I moved out to California.
Wow. So did you come out here with a name?
No. I actually came out just to see what I could do. It was on the advice of an agent that I had in Dallas. With all the voices you do, why don't you go out to Hollywood and give it a shot? And I said, oh, okay.
And did that agent in Dallas have connections in Hollywood?
No. My wife had 14 stamps. She tells this story. So she wrote to 14 agents and said, Bill Farmer will be in town and would like to, look for representation. And I got about 4 offers out of that. She really knew how to sell me. So,
so then you get the 4 offers and then you meet with them and you sign with somebody?
Yeah. And then they put you out for auditions, and that's how the audition came about for Goofy. They just said, do you do any of the Disney characters? Yeah, Goofy's my favorite, but I can try them all. Or you never know what sticks. And I didn't know if it was going to go for animation or voiceover or on-camera acting, because back in Dallas I did the movie RoboCop, and that was an on-camera role. And it could have easily gone that way when I got out here, but the animation is what stuck, and that's what I went with.
Wow. So you got that first role for Goofy, and then you said it was spaced out a couple months?
I came out here in August of 86. I had the audition in December of 86 for Goofy.
Wow. And then how often were you goofing?
In those days, they don't hire you like you're now the voice. It's just one contract for each job. It still is to that day today.
Was it a set rate for everybody?
It was a SAG minimum. Whatever they set as the minimum is probably what most people were getting paid, and still are to this day, I think. Although I get more money now, so luckily I've got a good agent, and they can talk up some money. After 38 years, I think I've earned it.
I think so too.
But no, in the beginning, it was just a SAG scale, a Screen Actors Guild scale. And yeah, I did that for many, many, many years.
Wow. When did you become a Disney legend?
In 2009, I became a Disney legend, and that is the greatest tribute that the company can give to someone, and that was just a mind blower to become a Disney legend. I got mine along with Tony Anselmo, the voice of Donald, and some big names like Betty White and Robin Williams became Disney legends that same day. And so that was heady stuff.
Where were you when you found out that was happening?
I got a letter from Bob Iger saying you have been chosen to be a Disney legend, and there will be ours was the first one in front of the public at D23 down in Anaheim, and there was like 4,500 people there when I got my award and all of that kind of stuff.
What did that mean for you, just in the personal of being a voice actor?
It was just, it was like getting an Oscar in a way. It is the Disney's Oscar, and my handprints are over on the Disney lot and in the Legends Plaza. And it, I feel like, yeah, I'm getting some respect.
I did it. What's the most prestigious... Like, in my room, I try and get something signed from everybody.
Uh-huh.
I am sure that your Goofy memorabilia is crazy. From your own personal collections to things that people are gifting you. What's your most prestigious Goofy item?
Oh, gosh. That I sign or just...
Whether it's a statue.
Oh, my God. Well, I got one of the original 5 statues... bronze statue of Goofy. There's one at Disneyland in the circle in the middle with Walt and all of that. It was a prototype for, I believe, the Tokyo Disneyland, and they had one for sale. I bought it, but I mean, I've been given so many things over the years. I did Leonard Maltin did an interview. It was a B-side to one of the albums, and he did an interview, and between us was this Goofy statue. And I said, that's really cool. And he says, hey, you want it? Oh, sure, yeah. And so it's at home. So you get little things over the years. Like still some of my original scripts from a Goofy movie, things like that, are great keepsakes.
Do you have any cells?
Oh, yeah, I've got a few cells. Not too many. From Goof Troop and, from Goof Troop, Prince and the Pauper. I've got a few cells from that, and yeah, I've got a few around the house. And one of the things that means a lot to me, it's just so weird. When I was a kid, I was about 7 or 8, there were these little things where you could paint like Goofy and Mickey and stuff like that, and it had little dots of paint, and you just painted it with water, and it would dissolve the paint, and then you paint it. But I had one, and what characters did I do? Goofy and Pluto. You couldn't plan that.
No, it was a sign.
Yeah, it was.
One of the most shocking things to me still is that voiceovers work on day player contracts.
Yeah.
That's just the way that it's always been, where you get hired for each job and you've signed 4,000 contracts in the past 38 years.
Yeah, that's the way it is. We're all independent contractors. We're like the plumber, They got a job, we go in, we sign the contract, we do it, and there you go.
So do you have to negotiate each job, or it's the set rate that you have?
It's usually you settle on that with your agent works for you. And, of course, they want to help you out and get more money and things like that. And so I'll get a bump in salary every, 2 or 3 years, something like that, whenever they can work something out. Or if there's something new that's going to be big, maybe, let's hold out for a little bit more money if it's kind of an unusual thing and see what they can get. And but it's, nothing compared to what they do on, the big screen. Tom Cruise, he's doing okay.
He's doing fine. How often are you saying no to characters?
I rarely ever say no. It's too much fun. And at this point in my career, sometimes I'll not do video games because they can be throat rippers. If it's like, I did a video game, I can't even remember which one it was, but it was like Army Guys versus the Zombies. And so there's always a day of screaming. And so it's like when all of the inputs, the hits, the fight, and I got a direction once. It says, okay, the zombie has ripped your arm off and he's beating you with it. What does that sound like? Okay, it's just a big scream. And if you do that for about an hour, you start sounding like the Godfather.
What does a video game script look like?
They can be very thick.
Do you have a printout of it?
Yeah. And like Kingdom Hearts is one of the main ones for Disney. It can be hundreds of pages thick. And they'll go, go to page 8 and line 116 is yours or whatever it is. And you do that line. Then you go to another page, and it's not generally like in a story format. So you can start in the middle, you can start at the end, whatever's best for them, what scene they're doing. And you don't get a sense of the story because a video game can go in different directions depending on what the player does. So you have to cover all of that. It can be thousands of lines, and people at Comic-Cons will say, well, remember in Kingdom Hearts when Goofy did this and that? No, first of all, Kingdom Hearts was done in Japan first, so I'm listening to the Japanese Goofy, replacing those words with English words, unlike anything else we ever do. So I don't even know what the story is.
Have you ever played these games?
I don't play them. My son can play them, and I've watched him and other people play the games, but I don't play them.
And then you'll pop up on screen?
Yeah, and then I don't remember doing that.
Are there any other games that stick out to you that you've done that was really fun?
I play Mikado Date in Yakuza. That's fun. That's a big script. I mean, I still have the script from the first one, and it was like 500 pages.
Is that overwhelming for you as a voice actor?
It can be. It can be very, those will do it over several days. And usually I think the limit is 4 hours a day because you can't do much more of that or you'll really start hurting your voice. And so, but you do 4 hours of voice work over about 5 or 6 days and the same character. Yeah, it's daunting. So it can be tiring.
You do a voice acting gig for a video game. You hit the 4 hour mark. What's your rest of your day like? Are you on vocal rest?
No, generally not. It depends on how much it did. I'll take it easy, but, it doesn't hurt that much.
Have you ever had a day of just silence because you need to prepare for something?
I've had certainly a day of rehearsal, like the Hollywood Bowl, the song and everything. I was doing that over and over. And the hardest part of that is waiting because I was in the last part of the whole show.
Oh, that's brutal.
And you're hearing all the stuff out there, everyone else singing and doing your stuff. You're pacing back and forth. You're sitting there, oh, man, what did I get myself into? Can I do this?
The Beatles are staring at you.
Like yeah. And you see the Beatles and everybody else that's been on that stage looking at you and pictures and stuff. Oh, my God. It's incredible. It's really mind-blowing. It really is.
How do calls with your agent normally work when you have a job for Goofy?
Usually, most of the time, I don't even talk to the agent. They'll email me, okay, you've got another Mickey Mouse Clubhouse next Thursday at 2. Can you do it? Or are you busy? Whatever. And I say, yeah, I can do it. Book that. And then it's all booked. And do you want to do home studio if my son's available, doesn't have a drumming gig or something? We'll do it at my home studio. If not, I can go into a studio and do it. But they work around me pretty good. So when I do a Comic-Cons, which I usually leave on Friday or am there on Fridays, and that's quite often the days we record things, they'll push it to Wednesday or Tuesday of next week or whatever needs to be done.
Do you remember the first time you walked into a big recording studio at Disney Studios?
Oh, yeah. The very first job, which was Mickey's, what was it, A Doggone Valentine. That was at a first studio I went to, and I've never looped to an old Goofy cartoon. I'd never looped anything in my life.
What does that mean? You had to do the voiceover to the animation?
It was replacing dialogue from an old Goofy cartoon so they could use the same video with new words. And I had to do that. And I've never done that before. So you get in and, everyone's looking at you and you got the script and, and then they give you it's like 3 beeps. It goes beep, 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 boom. And you do the thing kind of as a lead in to let you know when you start. And I'd never done that, but we got through that pretty well. And, you're just, sweating underneath it because it's scary. I hope they like me. I hope they get to use me again. And that particular thing, I met Tony Anselmo, the voice of Donald, and he's an artist, and he was drawing Donald. And I swear, I was so stupid. I walked in, and I saw him drawing Donald. I said, well, we don't have to draw these guys too, do we?
You have to voice
I thought that for a little bit to myself. Oh, no, I just have to do the voice. Okay. Oh, I thought they made a horrible mistake.
So you can't draw him?
No, not very well. No, not very well.
Growing up, were you always mimicking Mel Blanc's characters?
Not just Mel Blanc's, not just cartoons, but like movie stars and stuff like that, TV. I think probably the first one I ever did was Don Adams, I've Get Smart, which was an old TV show, and that, or Western characters seemed to be big on TV, where I'd see an old John Wayne movie, and, well, I'd start working out the John Wayne voice and get there and come and do it to my parents and say, well, when are we going to have that dinner? And they'd say, something's wrong with that kid.
Have you ever done anything at Hanna-Barbera Studios?
Not at Hanna-Barbera, but as I say, I took classes from Dawes Butler, who was he and Don Messick were the 2 big voices at Hanna-Barbera, did most all of them.
Did he do Fred Flintstone?
No, that was a guy named Alan Reed, who is kind of interesting. He is the first guy. I loved the Flintstones when it first came out, and Alan Reed passed away, and they got someone else. And I could tell the difference. That's the reason I think they should stick with one person doing the character. It changed. It was very close, but it wasn't the same. And that bothered me. I said, that's not Fred anymore. Even though it was a good voice, it just wasn't Fred. And so, I like the idea of having one person as the character and the personality because you get used to that. Mel Blanc gave his personality to all those characters. Since he passed away or quit doing those, they're different. They aren't the same as they were when I was a kid watching them. And I think that has to do with the voice actor. And obviously, when someone passes away, you've got to replace them. But if you don't have to, don't, because I think people get ingrained with a certain sound.
Oh, I completely agree, because even as a kid, I could hear the differences when a character was replaced on a show.
Right. Yeah. And it was bothering to me. I don't know. It's kind of like those movies where, the kid comes home and that's not my dad anymore. An alien took him over and things like that.
That's what it felt like.
Yeah. It's odd.
When you did Casper, did you audition for that part?
Yes, I did. That was an interesting thing because there were 2 sets of voices. There was, if I can remember back, it was like Universal, I think, did the very first Casper movie, and they had 3 actors, and I forgot who did all the voices on that. But then is a different company. Which was it? Saban, I think, did the Casper Meets Wendy and A Spirited Beginning were the 2 movies I did as the ghost Stinky, one of the 3. And my wife always tells the joke that says, yeah, I'll say you're goofy. I'm not going to say you're stinky. And so, yeah, we did audition for that, and we did the 2 movies, and that was a unique experience. That was Jess Harnell and Jim. Oh gosh, I'm having a brain meltdown here. Who did the other ghost? But anyway, we're the ghostly trio.
The ghostly trio. Who blows you away as a voice actor now?
Oh my gosh. Well, in the beginning, Frank Welker's amazing. Jim Cummings is great. Rob Paulson's great. Dee Baker is amazing. There's so many great actors out there. And I say actors. A lot of people don't think it's acting. It is. They're amazing performers. They have great, versatile voices, but it's not as much about the voice as it is what they do with that voice and the acting that goes with it. And there's some amazing actors out there, just to name a few.
I never understood when people say they're not actors because they put their personality into it. And I think that's what's so special about the cons is that the people really get to show their appreciation.
Yes, and it is. And I mean, people come up all the time and do their goofy for me and everything. And I, if it's not a very good one, I'll think, well, my job's safe. So, but always in the back of my mind it says, well, at least I get paid for it. Okay.
Do you ever run into another Mickey that's really good?
Oh, yeah. There's a lot of people that can do the voice. But it's the personality, and that's Brett Iwan and Wayne Allwine, who I worked with for 25 years until he passed away in 2009. They embodied the character. They embody the character. They bring that personality.
How many other people auditioned for Goofy?
I had heard, and I have no idea if this is accurate or not, about 1,100 is what I heard.
That's crazy.
But I mean, I know that they still auditioned that many people for a role. I did a show called Amphibia where I play a character named Hop Pop. And Sprig, the young voice, I heard from the producer of the show that they auditioned 1,600 people for the role of Sprig, the young frog in that. I don't know how many people tried out for Hop Pop, but it can be in the thousands.
How do you like voicing that character?
He's kind of a West Texas kind of thing, and he's a great character because I got to come up with that voice myself. Goofy's been around since 1932. I had to step into those shoes and match that. There was a vocal match, whereas Hop Pop, I came up with whatever I thought he should sound like, and luckily they agreed, and they thought, that's a good voice for him.
Are you channeling people in your past who are from West Texas?
Yeah. It's usually someone, it can be a teacher, it can be some guy you saw on TV, it can come from anywhere, something you've heard on the radio. You usually kind of use something as a basis. I mean, Billy West, when he did Ren and Stimpy, the one was based on Peter Lorre, you idiot, and so he took that and kind of modified it as a base, and then he modified it into this character. And all voices are kind of like that, generally.
What's working with Seth Green on Robot Chicken like?
Seth on Robot Chicken. I did Bugs Bunny doing a rap with Elmer Fudd, and I did Bugs and Daffy in that. And, I can't rap, really. So as Bugs Bunny, so he taught me. He was Seth was teaching me how to do the rap and everything. So he'd do it and I'd follow, and then we got it out eventually. But it's an odd mixture when they kind of throw these things. Okay, you're going to be doing Bugs, and now he's going to be a rap star. Okay, you just kind of got to, go with it and see what happens.
Yeah. I saw a rumor that Goofy's wife fell out at the Grand Canyon. Have you ever heard of that?
I've heard something to that effect, but I don't know. Goofy, people ask all the time, who's Goofy's wife? And I have no idea. They've never had an official thing at Disney. There were some cartoons in the 50s where Goofy, and he kind of went through a change to George Geef. He was kind of like an everyman. And he had a wife, but you only saw her hand. It was a human hand. And George, go and pick up the kids and stuff like that. But they've never really expounded upon that.
Would you ever want to see a Goofy trilogy?
Oh, yes, I'd love to, as a matter of fact. Yeah.
Has there ever been talks of it?
There have been talks of other movies down the road and everything, but nothing's happened as of yet. And I've got my own ideas, which I'm hopefully going to present to them sometime. So.
Hey, I'd love to see it. Phil, this has been so cool talking to you.
It's been my pleasure.
Thank you so much for coming by. The new Goofy documentary is out now on Disney+.
Not Just a Goof, and it's great. I learned so much by watching that documentary.
And then do you have any other cons coming up that maybe people can come see you at?
Around here, not around here. I'm going to be, tomorrow I'm heading out to Portland, Maine.
First time.
And then next weekend, I'm going to be at Denver. And I've got a lot of them. Orlando one, I've got New Orleans. I've got a bunch of them throughout the year.
Very cool.
Just stay tuned and I'll show up.
Well, thank you so much for coming by, Bill.
My pleasure.
Cool. Lightweights out. That was so good.
Oh, thanks.